Good evening. Ooh, can y'all hear my fan? I think I'm gonna turn it off. Just a second. Much better. Okay, so I have had a big change in my life. I got a new job where I am going to be working crazy shifts, and I am going to start doing stories 3 times a week, like I have been, but just on my days off, whenever those happen to fall. Today, I had the day off, but I do go in to work at midnight. I work at Target. That's why I have my red shirt on. So this is kind of a wake-up story for me. But it's probably a bedtime story for you. So, 3 days a week, whatever my days off happen to be, which are gonna change, 3 days a week at 9 p.m., we're gonna do all ages nighttime stories. So it might be a wake-up story for me, it might be a bedtime story for you, but it's gonna be a nighttime story at 9 p.m., 3 days a week, whatever my days off happen to be. So even if you miss something or anything like that, I always save the videos so no one has to miss any part of the stories. You can always come back and visit when it's a good time for you, all of that good stuff. But I hope y'all can join me live. There are always going to be notifications, all that good stuff. So we are reading chapter 8 of Kingdom Keepers, but it's the second part of it, right? That's what we did? Yes? No? What have I done? Yes, second part of chapter 8. So, let's get this going. We left Finn when they were getting kind of surrounded by the pirates. They were not exactly fast on their mechanical legs and feet, but they were steady and worked well as a team. One of the pirates climbed into a Space Ranger car. He aimed its toy laser cannon at Finn and fired. A bright red pulse of light shot through the night, narrowly missing Finn. He'd ridden the Space Ranger spin himself a dozen times or more. He knew there was nothing to fear. He'd put his hands into the laser light stream before. Nothing ever happened. The laser cannons were no more dangerous than a flashlight. Another thin red line of light flashed. Again it missed. But then Finn realized the cars were not plugged in, were not attached to any ride, had no power source. So where did the electricity for the cannon come from? As if to answer him, the next pinpoint of light struck his arm. A red bead flickered on his shirt sleeve. The fabric instantly turned brown, then gray, then... Ouch! It burned him! Finn leaped out of the way. Hey! He blurted out. He smelled burning hair. His hair. His skin. The laser was real. Another flash, then dodged out of the way. He avoided the next few attempts as well, the red beams flying past him like glowing arrows. He danced left and right, his arms stinging. The other pirates circled and closed in on Finn, their knives extended. If a toy laser can burn, what is a very real-looking knife going to do? Wayne had warned him that he was half hologram, half human. Only now did he realize that his human half could hurt. His wounded arm looked less transparent all of a sudden. He wondered if his fear made him more human than hologram. He pushed against the fear as if he were trying to shut a heavy door. A gray-haired pirate with a peg leg thump, thump, thumped his way closer. The circle closed around him. Now Finn could smell the pirates, oily, like an old car. and faintly electrical. Charlene called out to him from behind the tree. The captain raised his sword higher, trying to follow that voice. "Reinforcements, mate! Be ye ready!" Two of the younger pirates closed in on Finn. They walked stiffly and slowly like 6-foot-tall toy soldiers. Finn circled to his right, away from them. He dodged 2 more attempts from the laser. One of the pirates was hit in the process. The captain raised his hand to stop the laser assault. The 2 young pirates, their knives glinting, pressed ever closer. The captain, with one knee cocked, his foot perched on the lead car, thundered, "Well now, laddies, serve 'em up like a fine fillet." "Hey, dog breath." It was Philby. "Hey, dog breath." He stepped out from behind the tree. All 6 pirates turned toward Philby at once. With the pirates' attention briefly diverted, Finn sprang for the nearest Space Ranger car. He grabbed hold of its laser, swiveled, and fired. A pulse of red light shot out. Finn was a veteran of Space Ranger spin. He winged the pirate in the car ahead of him, not 10 feet away. The pirate didn't seem to feel it. He was a machine. Another pirate charged. Finn shot his knee out, and the thing toppled over, its one good leg moving, still trying to walk. Finn saw a difference between Blackbeard and the other pirates. Blackbeard had a vaguely human sound to him. Most of the others, all but a few, looked and sounded more like machines than real pirates. Finn sliced and burned right through the peg leg of an older pirate. He, too, teetered, leaned, and tumbled over, 2 down. On the captain's command, his men charged as a unit. Finn aimed for their knees in a brilliant display of gunnery. They staggered, several fell. The captain ordered a retreat, and Finn held his fire. Blackbeard, his eyes darting weirdly back and forth, reached for, but then decided against the sword that hung in his waist. He clucked his tongue in disappointment. "You've made a terrible mistake, lad. Me advice for you is go back to whence you came, and take them there too with you, for your own good." His mechanical facial expression never changed. He made no more threats, not with Finn still perched behind the laser. He simply turned and walked away. He did not run, did not hurry, Finn noted. He headed down the path and, a moment later, was gone, out of sight. His pirates dragged themselves and their fallen mates off with them. Finn released his hold on the laser, his fingers stiff from gripping so tightly. His shirt bore a small, charred hole. The burn on his arm was now a blistered scab. He'd hoped he might have only imagined it, but no. It hurt something fierce. He climbed out of the car. "Way to go," Charlene said simply, trying not to sound too impressed. Philby approached, and Finn thanked him for the diversion. The 2 shook hands. It felt to Finn as if that handshake represented a pact between them. They were in this together now. To celebrate what he called their first victory, Wayne offered them ice cream bars from the food kiosk. He carried a heavy-looking ring with dozens of keys of all shapes and sizes, with which he unlocked the kiosk. Finn sat down on a bench. Wayne handed him his ice cream sandwich, and Finn tore off the paper and bit into the treat. He tasted it. Though it wasn't nearly as sweet as it should have been. Maybe he was only half human, he thought. "What about Willa and Maybeck?" Charlene asked, enjoying her ice cream. Finn devoured the ice cream sandwich with his mouth full. "No clue." Charlene explained. "Me and Philby met here in the park the other night. We haven't found each other, on the outside yet. Not like the way you found me, but here we are." Her mention of the outside sent shivers up Finn's spine. Philby said, "I don't seem to remember as much as Charlene when I wake up. I'm not sure why, but, I've never really remembered my dreams, so maybe that's part of it." "But this isn't a dream," Finn reminded him. "I know that now," Philby said, "but I didn't know that earlier." "This'll all change," Wayne said. "The more you cross over, the more it will feel familiar to you." "Cross over?" Philby repeated. "Weird, huh?" Wayne's hand slipped into his pocket. "No!" Finn called out, knowing the man intended to send them back to his bed. You owe us an explanation first. I need you all together, Wayne said. Finn said, you have 3 of us. That will have to do. If we're ever all together, then fine, you can explain it again. But I just got burned on my arm by a group of pirates, Philby said. Mechanical pirates. Mechanical pirates that could talk and take orders, Charlene added. Yes, pirates, Finn said. Pirates you can't see, as I understand it, and I don't understand. And I'll stay up dusk to dawn if I have to in order to figure this out. And if you don't tell us what this is all about, you won't see me again. Or me. Or me. It's now or never, Finn declared. The old man looked paler by a good deal. Some bird off in the thick green cooed deeply. Finn felt like they were being watched. All right, Wayne said, smiling. He glanced around suspiciously. Come with me. They followed. After a bit of a walk, Wayne unlocked and admitted them into the auditorium for the Country Bear Jamboree. He placed the 3 kids in the first row, then he walked through the dark space and checked all the doors. He returned to the front of the hall and leaned against the stage to address them. There's a fine line between imagination and reality. An inventor dreams something up, and pretty soon it's there on the table before him. A science fiction writer envisions another world, and then some space probe finds it. You believe in something strongly enough, I think you can make it happen. That's a good thing, Finn said. Wayne asked, but what if we believe in witches and villains? If we believe as strongly in things like them, can we make them happen? You're giving me the creeps. This park, this wonderful place, makes both sides happen, the good and the bad. Some of Walt's stories go back generations, hundreds of years. Cinderella, Snow White. We see similar stories in many different cultures across the globe. What if these stories were once true, and if they were real, passed down from generation to generation? Different cultures experiencing similar things. And if they were real, are real, if the hero and heroine go off and live happily ever after, then what happens to the villains, witches, sea monsters, and evil stepmothers? Finn said, you're saying that because the park makes them real, they are real? I'm saying if you believe strongly enough, anything can happen. And millions of people, kids and adults, visit this park. All the Disney parks, the cruise line, the Broadway shows, the websites, Disney on Ice, every year, and they believe, Finn said. In the bad and the good, Charlene said. Exactly. Yes, they do. And there's power in that belief, Wayne said. So? Philby asked. So, you know your history. What is inevitable once evil gains power? Philby answered. It wants more. Empires, wars, that kind of stuff. We call them the Overtakers, Wayne whispered. Finn felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Who? Philby asked, also in a whisper. We, the Imagineers I'm talking about, needed something mortal, something part. A hybrid that could cross over to the character world. That's what we call it. Crossing over. We've suspected for years that the characters come alive, if you will, once the gates are closed. We've had evidence of this for some time, but when the trouble started happening, we knew we needed you, someone who could see the Overtakers, interact with them, stop them. This is crazy, Charlene mumbled. Walt knew the time would come. The world gets out of balance. The dark forces rule. History is full of such times. They can last hundreds of years unchecked. It's like a plague, this dark thought. There's no music, no art, only tyranny and war. Madness. Charlene said, I think I've heard enough. I'd like to wake up now, in my own bed. Wayne continued, You asked to hear this, so listen. The kids remained seated, their full attention on Wayne. As I said, Walt knew such a time would come. He left us a treasure map for a scavenger hunt, something the Overtakers could not easily figure out, even if they obtained it, which they never have. Most of them are machines, you see, audio animatronics and figures from attractions. Only a handful can think, can communicate, but they control the others. The Stonecutter's quill? Finn mumbled. Maine had mentioned it the first time they'd met. The what? Philby asked. It's a fable, Wayne said. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We must wait for the others. I, for one, Charlene said, am never coming back. So if you've got something to say, you better say it. Wayne paced as he talked. Think about it. The pirates, Maleficent, Cruella de Vil, Ursula, all with so much belief fueling them, belief to draw upon. It was inevitable, I suppose. What was inevitable? Charlene asked. Wayne didn't seem to hear her. And so many others all in the same place at the same time here in this park. The belief supporting them, making them stronger, making them real. Finn explained to Charlene and Philby, this is something to do with the fire-breathing dragon in Mickey and Phantasmic. Wayne said, that's not the end of it. We have rides, close unexpectedly, the laser cars go missing, costumes disappear, the parade route is changed with no one the wiser. Small harmless stuff so far, but for how long? Did you see the news? 100 padlocks were stolen from a hardware store. The security tapes revealed nothing, showed no one inside the store. Mark my word. Those padlocks were stolen 1 minute on the shelf, the next missing. How'd that happen? How long until the rest of us can see them? How long until they burn us the way they burned Finn tonight? What happens then? What happens when they realize there's a whole big world outside these park walls? What if they want to expand their empire? What then? He stopped. He was red-faced and breathing hard. Finn thought he looked a little sick. Maybe you should sit down, Finn suggested. It wasn't until the hurricane that we realized how far this had come. The hurricane? Finn repeated softly. A hurricane changed course a while out at sea and then headed directly here to Orlando. I'll accept that as a coincidence, a fluke of nature, Wayne said, clearly growing agitated, collected himself. But do you know what happened to the storm after it passed over here? Check it out on the internet. It lost power. Came in here at one strength and left considerably weaker. You think it just rained and blew itself out? We think not. We think that storm was harnessed, used like a giant battery, like a vampire sucking blood. The Overtakers used that storm to gain power. Since that storm, we've had a lot more unexplained inconveniences. They're practicing. They're getting ready for something bigger. Are you listening to yourself? That can't be, Finn mumbled. That's crazy. Philby caught Finn's look. He shook his head as if to say, it's not crazy. Then he said aloud, some ancient civilizations are thought to have used powerful storms to control their people. Wayne said, that hurricane was downgraded after passing over here. He sounded frightened. I'd really like to go home now, Charlene said. Finn thought about it for a moment and said softly, so let's say we accept some of this. What are we supposed to do? He knew he sounded terrified, but he couldn't help himself. You three and the others were carefully chosen for your individual talents. As DHIs, you are a part of their world. As kids, you're a part of ours. You are our eyes into the other side. Spies, Philby said. If you like, Wayne said. I don't like, Philby answered. Finn sputtered. I don't see what we're supposed to do. Sure you do, or you wouldn't be afraid. And while you're at it, think about this, Wayne said. Why and how do you think we came up with the concept of the DHIs? Charlene said, us being hosts. You're saying that wasn't the real reason? Philby said, they needed something that could exist in the character world, but wasn't a part of it. Wayne grinned at him. Aha, he declared. But the development costs, the time and energy it took to create you. We had to have a use for you to justify you to the rest of the company. He met eyes with Finn. Because no one would believe you if you told them a bunch of witches were going to take over the Magic Kingdom, Finn said. Wayne didn't answer this directly. He said, and so we dreamed up the idea of holograms and interactive hosts. Philby suggested, you needed spies, someone to find out what the Overtakers were up to. Find out if they even existed, Wayne said, nodding. And now that you do know they do, Finn said, rubbing the bird in his left arm. Now what? We need to lure out their leader, whoever it turns out to be, whatever it turns out to be. Deprogram it, redraw it, lock it up, who knows? You need us as bait, Finn complained. Walt left us a solution, Wayne reminded. We need you to solve the riddle of the stone cutter's quill. The old guy looked exhausted. Charlene said, and if we don't want to? Wayne's mouth twisted, his eyes looked stern and serious. At some point, you're going to have to sleep, he said. And from now on, when you do, you're going to cross over. He hesitated and then stepped closer to her, his face kind and gentle. I'm sorry, my dear girl, but there is no skipping this ride. And that's it for Chapter 8. I'll see you on Wednesday night. That's my next day off at 9 p.m. And we will continue on with Chapter 9 of The Kingdom Keepers. Good night.